Voyagers. My name is Aaron Moss. With me is my wife, Michelle Moss. And this is Voyagers Cast, a Headcast Network 20-episode maxi-series podcast where we look at the greatest time travel show of the early 80s, Voyagers. Joining us on this monthly expedition through time will be several of my podcasting friends and fellow Voyagers. Each month we look at an episode of Voyagers and give you our thoughts. So let's take a look and see where we're landing this time. Hey Voyagers, Brother Head here with episode 14 of Voyagers Cast. And as usual, I am not alone. I have my beautiful wife, Michelle, with me.
Hello, everyone, and how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Yourself? Oh, you're talking to them.
Yes, I am talking to them.
This is episode 14 entitled Sneak Attack.
Hold on.
I'm doing the intro.
No. Women can do this too, you know.
Well, they can, but
13 or 13 episodes so far.
Right, but I'm Brother Head.
Right, but I'm also Mrs. Head. And the Baroness in your G.I. Joe group. So, you know, I'm going to kind of take control over here for a minute and actually do this part of the episode for once. Because, you know, girls can do things too.
If you say so.
And I know so.
Yeah, I knew sleeping on the couch tonight. No, go ahead, honey. Take over.
Right. So, as we kind of just lightly touched on, it is episode 14, and the title is called Sneak Attack. The air date was February 13th, 1983. You were in your teens.
Yes, I was 13.
I was not 13.
You were 6.
I love when we do that math. It's so funny to me. Anyways.
Actually, you may have been 5 at the time, because this was early in 83.
There you go. February, yeah. It was before my birthday. All right, so let's talk about the synopsis. This is from Wikipedia, and this is what they have. In Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, on December 6, 1941, Jackie Knox, an Army intelligence officer, follows the Voyagers and steals the Omni, bringing them to Utah on April 10, 1860. They find an injured teenage Bill Cody, who was riding for the Pony Express, but was attacked by outlaws. Bog convinces Jackie that Voyagers help people in history, but when Jeff decides to make the pony ride and gets ambushed, the trio jump back to Hawaii on the morning of December 7th. During the attack on Pearl Harbor, Jackie saves the life of General Douglas MacArthur. They then use a 1941 motorcycle for the pony ride in 1860 in order to outrun the bandits. This was a very watered down synopsis.
Yeah. See, when I write them, I tend to write like a 20-page essay on it, and
it doesn't even cover like the whole women's lib thing that happened.
We can talk about that though.
Very true.
So, anyways, well,
I'm going to ask you, honey, what did you think of this episode?
Okay. No, I have some qualms with it. I enjoyed it. It's Voyager, so I enjoyed it definitely, but I do have some problems with it. First of all, as I watch this is what I call a star-studded episode, at least for me, because a lot of the cast I recognize from other shows. Bill Cody, that was Ike Eisenman. I know him best from the Witch Mountain series. Escape from Witch Mountain, Return to Witch Mountain, and all those from the 70s.
Doesn't ring a bell.
General Knox, the main girl's father. His name is Dana Clare, is the actor. Akar. And I know him from MacGyver. The TV series, the first original MacGyver, not the new one.
Never watched that either.
He was MacGyver's friend, Pete Thornton. You're not going to know this next one either. Well, you may. Jackie Knox, the girl. Mm-hmm. Her name is Brianna Leary. I know her best from Match Game. So when we dropped cable, we got a smart TV. And for a while there, I was always watching Buzzer. And Match Game always seemed to be on.
All the time.
And I enjoyed Match Game, so I watched it all the time.
You can eat tacos every day, too.
That I can. But Brianna Leary, she first appeared on there as a contestant. And then, like I said, they didn't show them in order. there was different versions of Match Game. So I saw her a couple episodes as a contestant, and then like a week later, I saw her as a panelist. And I got looking, and after she was on that show as a contestant, she went on to become an actress herself, probably best known for Chips. She was one of the cops.
I used to watch that show.
She was the female cop on Chips.
Okay, I don't remember the show, but I know I watched the show because my mom used to complain that I liked that show.
So you would have seen her. She was in a lot of episodes.
Okay.
As one of the female chippies, if you will. Chipettes. Chippendales. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. And then the last one I'm going to mention is Mike. I call him Mike the MP. Was played by David Graff. And I know you know him. He was Tackleberry from the Police Academy movies.
No, see, I don't remember because I think that those movies were a little bit too adult for me at the time of them. Though I know the name and I know his face.
Yeah, he was the gun nut.
I've seen him, but yeah, I don't know the show.
In case you don't know who Tackleberry is, if you've seen the Police Academy movies, he was in like almost all of them. He was Tackleberry, the guy that really loved guns.
Yeah, I just know the name Mahoney and Tackleberry. I know those names.
Yeah, Mahoney was the main character.
And I know the guy that made all the sounds.
Michael
Winslow.
Winslow?
Was it Winslow or Winslet?
Winslow? Yeah.
I don't know why.
What was his real name?
Okay. Well, at least I knew that.
Yes, very good.
Impressive.
But anyway, so yeah, I like it because I like, and I know a lot of these actors that was in this episode. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, most of them did a good job. I am going to say Brianna, I thought her acting was a little...
forced?
Over the top, a little, like Dean always says, it's like a first grader kindergarten play. We will help you, Cinderella. It was kind of like that. Her acting was, she seemed very...
It was forced.
And she'd been acting for a while, so... I just honestly, I don't remember. I remember her in Chips, but I don't remember her acting in it. But
because she was that memorable.
Well, and again, it's been a while since I've watched Chips, but yeah, I don't know if she's just a good actress, or it's just the director couldn't get it out of her, or what it is. But on here, I thought her acting was very stilted. Yeah, I don't know what it was. It just her acting on here was very forced. I guess is the best word. I don't like using the word forced because the judge got on me, but that's another story entirely.
Apparently never mind.
And this is, I think, one of the first episodes that we had a return character.
Wild Bill, or was
Buffalo
it Wild Bill? Buffalo Bill, there we go, yeah.
Yes, 2 episodes ago, we talked about Buffalo Bill plays the palace.
He was 41.
And in this episode, was he?
Yes, in that one, it said he was 41.
In this episode, he was 14.
Oh,
I
good
like
job, writers.
But yeah, so this had a younger version of before he became Buffalo Bill, which is Bill Cody. So I do like the fact that they met him before they actually met him. Time travel. Timey-wimey.
Wibbly wobbly.
And real quick for you, before I pass it over to you, just some trivia I picked up from IMDb. Like we've talked about last episode, the Trial of Phineas was supposed to be the last episode.
Right.
But they extended it another 7 episodes. Apparently with this episode, they made a kind of a tone change with the show. And they're trying to appeal to an older audience and improve their ratings. So the shorter scenes with historical figures, they removed them. And they slowed the pace down a little bit.
Which was dumb.
So they figured that the older viewers didn't want these just quick little interludes of meeting Ben Franklin trying to fly the kite and then disappear.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. I thought you were saying that they weren't showing as much historical.
No, well, technically they're not because they don't have...
They kind of they were trying to build more of the storyline with Phineas and...
Right.
I didn't like that.
And they were trying, like I said, they were trying to appeal to an older audience and get more people watching it. So they like I say, cut out a lot of the short little 5 minutes. Let's help this person real quick and then move on for a longer story.
But see, nowadays, everything is so short. You think about it like TikTok and all of that. Like, everybody is so fixated on the little bits that maybe they were not onto something.
Maybe. Or maybe. Of course, again, this was 40 years ago. So yeah.
No, not 40 years ago. Because I'm not there
39.
yet. Thank you.
39 years ago.
Yeah,
the show came out 40 years ago, but This episode came out 39 years ago.
Okay.
Also on IMDb, they have a goof listed. According to IMDb, Douglas MacArthur was in the Philippines on December 6th and 7th. In 1941, he wasn't in Hawaii. So to correct time, they would have had to go and stop him from going to Hawaii altogether. I say, is that a goof, or is that... Did the military make us think he was in the Philippines? Because, as I said, this was a secret meeting and only a few people knew he was there.
Right.
So was that a goof? Or maybe he actually was a Pearl Harbor and no one knew about it because it was a secret. Ha. Anyways, but no, overall, like I said, other than Jackie's acting and a few other minor things, I say that when they were in the Old West and they were driving the motorcycle up to the mountain and they kept flashing the mountain or the cliff, and Jerry's like, Phineas Hook, there's a cliff ahead. I think we were looking at the other side of the mountain, not what Jeffrey was seeing.
It was just a really weird angle. You could see the lip of the cliff, but it was so focused on the top of the mountain that it didn't show. It was like you had a big mountain in front of the cliff. So when the cameras were showing... Is
that what it was?
Yes, because my brain kind of went, what the heck? And then I looked a little bit down towards the end of the screen and you could see like the ledge of the cliff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See,
it was just really, really bad camera work right there.
Yeah. Because, when I first looked at it before Jeffrey said anything, I thought he was going to drive into a side of a mountain. And Jeffrey's like, we're going to go off the cliff. I'm like, and they cut back. I'm like, are we looking at... What? I got a little confused on that. But other than those two little points, I enjoyed this episode. Michelle, this is your first time watching it. Well, technically your second time because we did watch it here a couple weeks ago. But we didn't record about it. So this is your first time watching this episode. What are your thoughts on it?
First question is Knox. What was her father's first name? Do you remember? Colonel Knox. They don't say his first name.
That was what it pulled from Wikipedia. Wikipedia. IMDb had just listed him as Colonel Knox.
Okay.
I want to say they did say his name possibly, but...
Was it Frank by any chance?
Maybe.
Well, the reason why I ask is...
We're going to call him Colonel.
Okay. Well, because the reason why I ask is I was trying to do a little bit of digging because I was like, why are they focusing on this Knox chick? Is she someone who is important to... I don't remember her first name for some reason.
Her first name was Jackie.
Jackie Knox. Okay. And I did come up with the William Franklin Knox, who was an American politician, an editor and a publisher. It says on December 7th, Knox, flanked by his assistant, John O'Keefe, walked into Roosevelt's White House study at approximately 1:30 p.m., announcing that Japan had attacked Pearl Harbor. Knox was mentioned by name in Adolf Hitler's speech in December 11, 1941, in which Hitler asked for a German declaration of war against the United States.
Yeah, I think this is a different Knox.
Okay.
I think him and her are made-up characters.
Okay. Which, I didn't like that. Because I had that question. Because up until this point, I mean, yes, the women haven't been huge historical figures for the most part. I don't think they have. I don't remember a lot of women.
Annie Oakley.
Annie Oakley, okay. That's about it.
Episodes ago.
Cleopatra.
There was Harriet Tubman.
Okay, so
in the second episode.
There's been a few. I'll kind of retract that statement a little bit.
There was the Crucible episode.
Yeah, but that wasn't.
But there's names that you recognized.
Yeah.
From there, so I mean.
So I was kind of curious as whether or not these characters, especially Colonel Knox and his daughter, like, was there really someone who was trying, because they made such a huge point to be, oh, I'm a woman and I can do this and hurrah and all of that. So I was kind of curious if there was some woman during Pearl Harbor that did something. I mean, I'm sure there was plenty of them, but in that regard, never know. But you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You get where I'm coming from,
right?
I
think that's why I don't think there was probably anyone that stood out as far as a woman. So that's why they created
this character
Jackie to take that role. Because they wanted to, again, they are going for more of an older audience. And so I think that's why they're going with that whole women's lib and not necessarily women's lib, but women's lib.
No, women can do.
Women can do what men can do. And
I don't even think it was that, but it was more of a... Well, because back in the 80s, women were going into the workforce,
right?
If you think about it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, so I could see where they were trying to reach that audience.
Yeah.
You know, hey, you know, look at here. We even have strong women in this. But to back up, to start, seeing this a second time, I really don't think I want to see it a third time. And it's not because I hated it. However, there's too many things that kind of agitated me a little bit, I guess you could say, because I felt like you said, she was kind of forced.
Right.
Her acting was subpar. I felt like when they first landed and they're in the actual Philippine jungle, because apparently I read that they're actually in the Philippines at that point and not in Hawaii. But there's like, oh, help him. And then like, instead of like running and like doing a punch or something, what does he do? Phineas like jumps on them like, I don't know, some kind of like crazy madman, or I don't know. It was almost like he jumped on them like they land when they're falling. And then Joffrey's like, not without me, you're not, you know, and
right.
With Joffrey knowing more about who those people are, I think he would be a little bit more cautious. You know? He's
a 12-year-old kid. At that point, especially boys think they're invincible. So, I mean, I could definitely see...
with him being a history buff, though, I kind of feel like he'd be a little bit more cautious, you know?
I see where you're coming from, but yeah, I see him being...
But Bog just really, when he jumped on those people, I was like, what? And then speaking of that little time frame, I know we discussed it, but bringing it into the forefront, it was supposed to be like warm jungle, whatever. Right. And you can actually see their cold breath and they're wet. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, how cold must it have been if you're seeing people's breath and they're getting, you know, hopefully the rainwater that they were using in the sound stage or whatever was warmed up because, man, that looked like they were freezing cold.
Were they on a sound stage? Maybe they were actually in
the jungle
outside somewhere, because they were cold. So I mean, because we did see their breath. So
right, if we need to know what day they filmed or something, too bad we couldn't find that out. But and then you're like, you know how we should have known it was cold, as if we could see Phineas's nipples.
Well, his shirt's halfway open down to his belly button, and that would have told you he's cold.
That was just gross. But
obviously I wasn't looking, so
neither was I. I did like, however, when Joffrey kind of had that moment of remorse when he's like, you know, don't you wish you could warn these people pretty much? I mean, if you think about it, coming from the 9/11 era, if you could go back in time and warn all those people not to get on the plane or, you know, get out of the tower, how could you not?
Right.
You know?
And then, like I think Phineas was saying, that's one thing that you learn as a time traveler, that you can't change history from what it should be.
Then I never want to be a time traveler. Never, ever. I couldn't do it.
And that's a lot of time travel stories deal with that aspect of it, that, you know, if you're at a spot where you can stop Hitler, do you stop him or do you let history continue on its course? Because if you stop that from happening, maybe something worse could happen.
Right.
And that was kind of the point of Stephen King's book, 11/22/77. 77, that's when you were born.
Yeah.
11/22/63. Sorry. And where the main character in there was trying to stop
JFK
Kennedy from being assassinated. And spoilers, he does stop it, and the world's in much worse shape when he returns home. And so he has to go back and stop himself from...
Biff should never have gotten the almanac.
Yeah, I've seen those posts too. That's why we have COVID and Trump was the president.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And people blame it on Barry Allen.
Oh,
the Flash TV series.
But yeah, no, I get it. It's just, that really resonated with me. Mm-hmm. And it was that little tiny scene to me was well written, and I'm glad they finally slapped you in the face with it.
Right.
Because I've been waiting for that moment because, for the most part, these have been pretty lighthearted jaunts through history. I mean, yeah, we've had wars, we've had this, but being an American.
Slavery and...
Yeah, okay, yes, yeah. I agree. Those things most definitely. But Jeffrey's never really shown that remorse of knowing what's going to happen.
Of wanting to stop something from happening.
Yes. I mean, yes, slavery is bad. You don't talk like that to people.
Right.
You don't treat that people. You treat with kindness. And, he definitely kind of pushed that movement of, everybody's equal.
Right.
However, this is the first time where he's pretty much acknowledged people are going to die, bro.
And I think this is one of the first times where people are going to die, bro, and they're supposed to.
Yeah. And
for the most part, it's either they're stopping people from dying or things like the witch hunts, which they couldn't do anything about from where they were at.
Right.
So I think this is one of the first times that he was actually in a position where he could have, in quotes, stopped people from dying that was supposed to die.
And he chose not to.
And he chose to follow time travel laws.
I could never do it. Could never ever do it.
And that's why you haven't been given an Omni.
I know. I just want one for prettiness. I also have to say...
Though in my defense or accusations, I haven't been given one either because I would go back and make myself a lot of money. I would take the Sports Almanac and...
Okay, Biff.
I would be rich. But anyways, carry on.
I also feel... Is it really horrible of me that I really wanted that Knox chick to die in the... Yeah,
yes, it was.
I didn't want her to come out. Like, I wanted...
No, I can understand.
Many different reasons. Number one, she really annoyed me, especially like the taking pictures thing. I felt like they went overboard and took way too much time on that.
Right.
Jeffrey was already annoyed with her from day one, from the moment he met her, which I get because it would almost be like a little brother being annoyed with the big brother's girlfriend at first. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
That whole scenario.
Plus, he's on a mission.
Yes.
And he's wishing someone could deal with his lonely condition. Sorry. He's on a mission and she was interrupting it. So that's his main plus. Yeah, he knew
But
Bog
he
was
should be used to women interrupting Bog because
right,
it
but
happens.
He was on a very special mission at this point. Again, he was on the way to stop MacArthur from being killed, which to him was a very important thing to do.
Because it would help with World War II.
And, and she was in the way of that. Plus, he knew that Bog would want to tap that.
Right. So, and he's just like, here we go again. There was that.
Plus, if you haven't noticed, and I'm sure you have, pretty women are Bog's kryptonite.
Yes, most definitely.
I'm sorry I'm in the way, Bog. Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
My second reason that I kind of was hoping that she would die was because... I know it sounds so wrong.
I wish she would die. Here's reasons why. 1, 2, 55, 56. Reason 152, she should die. Horribly and painfully. Sorry, anyways. You want reason 500?
Is because I kind of wanted Bog to suffer a loss. Is that wrong? Just for the story aspect of it, for the dramatic...
If he was a person, yes. An actual person, yes, that would be wrong.
For the character.
For the character, yeah. No, it's not necessarily wrong.
I don't want someone in real life. I've been through that. That's not fun. But what I'm saying is in the story, it would have been a neat character development because he did have an actual connection to this lady. Like,
honestly, I think Bog has a connection with almost every lady.
Yeah, he wanted to connect with her.
He has a connection with almost every lady.
But this one...
I don't know if this is really too much more special than...
I am wondering, but I don't know, because he actually did contemplate, like, they had the, like when you sit on that, when you're young and you're in love and you sit on the phone all night long and you're talking, he had that moment with that lady.
Right.
He doesn't have those moments, so it was just like they hook up and, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, one night stand kind of thing. But for this one, it was like he actually had that moment of talking long on the phone and, having, and it was the first woman who really shared the fact that she knew he was a time traveler too. Yeah. So
she knew the secret in quotes.
Yeah. So it was like he could be himself fully and not have that. I'm just gonna leave her.
Right.
This one actually, because she knew there could be some form of a relationship there.
Well, I said, it's hard enough having an overseas boyfriend, let alone one that's.
Yeah, she said a boyfriend from a different. No, she said, what was it? Because I was like, well, you can't call me from another time zone.
Right.
And my brain went, yeah, you can. And I'm like, wait, wrong era.
Wrong time zone.
Yes. But, I was just like, you could just.
She's not talking about general time to Pacific time.
I went, that's where my brain went at first. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. No, Michelle, come on. We're talking about time zone.
Well, and I'm wondering if the writers, because the writer of this one of the writers was James Patriot, the creator of Voyagers. I'm wondering if they're secretly listening into us and going back in time and correcting things. Because right now in real world time, I'm editing episode 11.
Yeah.
And I'm at the area where you're complaining that they always wear the same clothes and no one ever notices it. I wish they would start, people would notice that they have different clothes on and mention it.
And this one finally did it for me.
Several people did.
Yes. And I liked that so much because I'm like, finally, if someone was walking down my street in, Elizabethan clothing, and they came and talked to me.
But if they were wearing future clothes, would you notice?
If it was really outlandish, yeah. I mean, if you are from the West and Marty McFly shows up with those air pumping sneakers that they had, or those big old boots,
right,
or a hoverboard, you're gonna freaking notice those things.
Yeah. But I don't know if they may have noticed it before, but not as much. But I just thought it was funny that I'm editing an episode where I was editing before we stopped to record or watch this episode. You just got done complaining about how you said when we comment on that. And in this episode, several people took notice of that.
Good, I'm glad.
I just thought that was funny.
Yes, because it's been a hang up of mine for a while.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that she took the Omni off of him. I was going to say he needs to have it like connected to a chain or something, or let Jeffrey hold it because, he can't keep it in his pants. Bada boom.
Nor the Omni.
I'm really wondering, and maybe a listener, maybe Lee can answer this if Lee actually still listens to our podcast. I don't know. But whether or not the footage that they used for Pearl Harbor was real Pearl Harbor footage,
or was it from another movie or something?
Yeah, but I'm wondering.
Said there was a lot of stock footage, but I don't know if it was actual footage from actual Pearl Harbor.
Because it was black and white and real grainy, and so I don't know if that was just because they did use old movie footage. Yeah, it could have been an older movie, or I don't know. Yeah, I tried looking online to see if I could find out what kind of footage that was. I couldn't find anything that referenced, other than being just stock footage in quotes, what that footage was from. So I don't know. Right.
Where it came from.
And it's so funny because as much as I am a firm believer that women should be able to do what they choose to do in life. If they have goals to be whatever they want, a secret agent person to the president or whatever the case may be, if that is what your end goal is, if you can do it, by all means, go for it. But I've never been a big fan or proponent of shows that are like, I'm a woman, I can do it. I guess it's the real feminine side of me where I'm like, just do it. But I get it because back then, when, for instance, I think I would have called the jerk face back because he's like, bye, honey. Oh my gosh. That shows the level of disregard women had perhaps in that time era, because he was just a private. And that was another thing. He was a private talking to her that way.
Well, she's just a woman.
Right. That's why. It was honey.
Well, she was going on about some nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, we also need to, there's a huge elephant in the room.
Call me that.
The motorcycle. There's a lot of this episode I enjoyed. That was definitely something that could have just gone away. The Iron Horse, that machine, all of that stuff. If I were to see a spaceship pull up in front of my house and people are riding in a spaceship, I swear to God, I'm going to freak out. I would freak out. It would not be I'm going to steal that. You know, like, there was so much about that, too, that absolutely just irked me.
Well, see, it didn't bother me because, for one, they didn't leave it there. Well, they did, but in pieces. But
how much of it really would have burned up, though? Because, yes, it would have burned up, but...
Well, and that's another error with it, is that since they were almost out of gas, there shouldn't have been that big of a fire explosion with it.
Oh, very true. I didn't even think about that.
With the explosion they showed, a lot of it probably would have been blown to smithereens, not enough for them to be able to tell what it was other than just a chunk of metal. They couldn't put it back together from what was left. But, yeah, the explosion was bigger than was called for.
It was redonkulous.
And that's one thing I thought was stupid, maybe.
Yeah.
Was when, they're like, Finney's like, oh, we're almost out of gas.
Open it up and look inside.
Jeffrey's like, look in the tank. Okay, it's dark in there. What are you looking for?
Liquid?
I mean, the gas the meter's telling you it's almost out of gas. If it's broke, well, I mean, you can keep going, but if it's out of gas, it's out of gas.
Right.
Looking at the tank's not, why don't you drop a match in there and see what happens? Maybe then you can see it was too dark.
Right.
But no, I thought that was a little...
No, I absolutely 100%
annoying.
agree with you.
Though it's not as bad as we talked about when we were watching it, when McCarthy was under attack and
he's standing...
Finney's like, I'll go save him. And Brianna's like, or Jackie's like...
Let me do it.
No, you can't. You can't do it. You're a girl, daughter. Let me do it, Phineas, please.
Yeah. It's like my time. Minutes. She did the whole Goonies talk. It's our time. It's our time down here.
And at least with Goonies, they weren't under pressure, as it were.
Then so we right up Troy's bucket.
Like I say, at least with that, it wasn't a time thing.
No, I'm just saying, like, it was that same long-winded speech, it felt like.
And it wasn't that long in the scheme of things, but it was when MacArthur's life was at stake.
He's standing there like an idiot with his gun in the air, waving it around like he's really going to shoot down an airplane with his little pistol.
I've seen that somewhere.
No.
But yeah, no, I agree. It was... Especially for, like I say, as long drawn out as that conversation was. Like I said, it was only 30 seconds a minute, but it was a 30 seconds a minute longer than it should have been. Finney just said, I'll get him, and then she pushes him aside or whatever. No, I'll do it. And then rushes out there and saves him. Not have that conversation with her dad. Say, oh, you can't do it. You're just a little girl. And she's like, it's my time to do it. It's my time to raid up in Tori's bucket. Yeah.
Troy,
thank you. Troy's bucket and da-da-da.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt that went way too long for what it was.
I know it was like I said, I really don't care for the fact that there was for the whole women's lib. Was it women's lib?
Women's lib before women's lib.
Yeah, I don't care for that stuff only because I feel like it's never done right.
Right, and that's the problem. A lot of times it's not done properly, or it's forced, or whatever the case may be. So I can definitely see where you're coming from.
I personally have a problem with it, and I don't know why. Huh? No. Trust me, that's far. I mean,
you really do like women?
Huh?
Hubba. Sorry.
No, it's our daughter. No, I mean, on my mom's side, I was the only granddaughter out of 6 grandkids. So I had to hold my own with all those boys. And my grandfather was very old school, where, if we went fishing, the boys held the fishing rod better than I did because I wasn't holding it right or whatever the case may be. So I get it. I didn't like that feeling of not being as good as the boys. I get it in some regard. I also was the only girl in tech support for a very long time, having to hold my own there. There's been a lot of that. I was the only female teacher when I was teaching web and graphic design. There was a lot of those things where I've been the only girl and having to prove myself in a quote unquote man's world, I guess. But I hate using those terms because I just don't like them.
It's true.
Yeah.
It is a man's world.
And you're being...
Anyways, Voyagers. So overall, even though with the problems, I did like this episode. Apparently much better than you did.
It was good. I mean, it was entertaining. But like I said, the chick and the motorcycle was just... I didn't like
the motorcycle
that.
did bother me. In fact, like I was saying, like this is the first time they actually have taken a vehicle through time with them.
And like you asked me, how come it didn't, when it fell, how come it didn't like fall apart and land?
Because when they fall, they don't fall
gracefully.
Just a foot. They fall from several feet in the air. So I don't know.
It's a heavy duty motorcycle then.
Maybe. It was military
grade.
Military grade, which goes back on maybe it's not so heavy duty, but
the ankle, you and I'd have to disagree on that because within like a day of him saying, "Oh, I broke my ankle," the next day he's actually like limping, walking on it, but lightly limping.
Well, he limped out of the doctor's office though. So maybe it wasn't such a bad break. I mean, it depends on how bad it was broke. Maybe it was a hairline fracture.
It still hurts like a mother for the first couple days.
Tough. He's Buffalo Bill Cody. He's a tough mother.
I will say I liked the conversation that Cody had with Jeffrey. I almost called him James. I don't know why, but...
Better than Joffrey.
Yeah. Stop it. I've been trying to control that all night. I liked the conversation that they had about orphans. Mm-hmm. I like the way Buffalo Bill went back and was talking about how, at least you had that time that they loved you. Kind of reminding Jeffrey that, hey, it could have been worse.
Yes.
It's kind of that whole, it's better to have loved than never to have loved it all.
Lost than never loved it all.
Yeah, that. But I don't know. Like, I get it. And the whole conversation that he had with, like, the reason why orphans are doing it is because nobody's going to miss you because nobody loves
cares
you.
If you go missing.
Yeah, that kind of bothered me. It made me feel bad. Like, I was like, no, I'll miss you. Don't worry. Like, you're in my heart. Like, and then when he said that, the banker guy came and told him that he needed him and it was the first time he felt seen or
right,
that the writing on that was really well done, I thought. Yeah, for that part. So I'm wondering how many writers were on this
2
episode
according to IMDb.
Okay, one of them was good and the other one not so much. So I don't, but see, and that's what bothers me because it's like, were they doing that whole like, I'll write a few like scenes?
Right, it's hard to say if someone wrote, or maybe one person wrote the Wild West scenes and someone else wrote the Pearl Harbor scene.
Yeah, because it felt very different if you think about it.
I noticed that, but then again, a lot of times I don't. So
it felt the dialogue and whatnot felt different between the two. And it could be just the acting too, because Jeffrey, at this point, I feel like Jeffrey's finally got the acting, or what's his Mino? Mino.
Liz.
Yeah, I feel like
I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but
I feel like he kind of has gotten a little bit better at his acting at this point, or where I'm just getting desensitized with him. I will say that I felt like Miss Knox was whiny like Jeffrey was at the beginning of the show. And I think that's another reason why I was just like, I wish she would have just died in Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, maybe she did.
She didn't, because... I don't know.
Oh, you're right. We did see. Never mind.
Yeah. And that's what made me question whether or not she was actually somebody, because they made it a point to give her an assignment and to go like a certain spot, and...
But see, since MacArthur wasn't actually there, in quotes, there wouldn't have been a female to get that special assignment.
True.
Because again, in real history, MacArthur was never there.
And, she was like, oh, I've never allowed myself to fall in love. And then when he leaves, she's like, I love you. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, that's going to screw her up. Because she finally has allowed herself to have those things, and then, like, he goes away, and she's never supposedly going to see him again.
Right.
And...
See, I thought Tackleberry was going to hit on her.
What? Why?
When he told MacArthur that, well, I know someone that'd like to give her that message personally.
Oh, I'm sure he would.
I thought he was referring to himself and that he liked her and maybe he was going to come on to her.
But we never got to see who gave her the message, right?
Jeffrey did.
Jeffrey did?
Yeah, Jeffrey told her that MacArthur wants her for a special detail.
Oh.
When him and Tackleberry showed up.
I missed that for some reason.
When her and Phineas was talking about their whole love thing you were just talking about.
Right.
Tackleberry and Jeffrey showed up on the motorcycle.
The Iron Horse.
And Jeffrey got off and said that MacArthur wants you for a special detail. And then Tackleberry's like, yep, I was there. I heard it.
Jeffrey's like, don't let the door hit you or the good Lord split you.
So when Tackleberry said that, so that would like to tell her that, I thought he was referring to himself.
Oh.
And he wanted to give her the good news.
Which is funny because if you think of the sarcasm in that, because I don't know if Jeffrey still liked her or not at that point.
I don't think he had a problem with her at that point because
they kind of understood each other.
Again, I think his biggest issue with her to begin with was that he was on a mission to save MacArthur, and he thought she was just some annoying tourist that was getting in his way.
That Bog wanted to tap.
Right. And once he found out who she actually was, he was still annoyed because she was getting in the way of their mission. But once their mission was done, so at the very end, I don't think he had a problem with her because his mission was done and they were getting ready to leave.
I guess. Anything else about this episode?
I like it. No, I don't. Like I said, I thought it was even with its issues, its problems, overall, I enjoyed it. I wouldn't mind watching it again.
I want to see the other ones. Maybe when we re-watch the series again, if we do, I'll might watch it again. Oh,
we're gonna do after we get done. We're gonna crash watch the whole 20 episodes and just do one episode about the whole thing. Plus, just for the giggles of it, I may throw in the Pig Farmer episode from Quantum Leap.
Why?
Just to annoy you.
No.
So, Michelle.
What?
I think we've talked enough about this episode, unless you've got anything.
Nope.
Would you like to pull out your Omni and...
Ooh, yes. I get to do the Omni this time. So I'm going to go ahead and take it out of my pocket because I'm not going to have people take it off of me like some doofus does. And I'm going to open it up and let's see where we're going to go. So, have you ever been on a boat?
Just a little one your parents had that one time. Not a boat.
Yeah?
Nope.
Been to Alaska?
Nope.
You're going to enjoy the next one. You know how to swim?
Yes.
In cold water?
Maybe. Well, I've got some questions for you.
What?
Before we switch this whole thing up, I had questions. One was, and again, I tried to throw this in there. Have you heard of a cruise ship called the Titanic?
Yeah.
Would you like to see another Voyager? And do you like pickles? One of those has no bearing on next episode. Have a good day, everybody.
Bat's breath.
If you want to learn more about the Wright brothers, Eddie Rickenbacker, and the early days of flying, take a voyage to your nearest public library. It's all in books.
Thank you for listening. This has been Voyagers Cast, a proud member of the Headcast Network family of shows. All copyrights belong to respective owners, and no copyright infringement is intended or implied. We're just a huge fan of time travel shows, and Voyagers in particular. Be sure to join us monthly as we watch where Phineas and Jeffrey land next. And if you enjoy this show, check out the other shows on the Headcast Network. The first week of the month, we have Head Speaks and the Starbright Project. Head Speaks is where I talk about comic books, TVs, movies, books, anything geeky. The Starbright Project is where Michelle and I look at another great time travel series, Quantum Leap, and then we'll talk about it. The second week of the month brings you G.I. Joe, a Real American Headcast, and this show, Voyagers Cast. Over on my G.I. Joe show, we look at the G.I. Joe comics and cartoons from the late 80s. The third week of the month, we drop both Task Force X and Retrospect to the 80s. Task Force X is a show that looks at the Suicide Squad and Checkmate books from the late 80s. Retrospect to the 80s, surprisingly enough, is a show where Michelle and I, and possibly some guests, look back at what we think is the greatest decade there was, the 80s. Finally, the fourth week of the month, I released the Starman Manhunter Adventure Hour and Bravo Team. Starman Manhunter is a show where I look at the Will Payton Starman and the Mark Shaw Manhunter books, both from the late 80s. Yes, I have a time period. Bravo Team is my sister show to the G.I. Joe team, or maybe brother show, where we look at anything else G.I. Joe related. We'll be back next month to join our friends Phineas and Jeffrey as they leap into, well, the unknown. Until then, remember, may your landings always be soft
and your lights always be green.